Hi, you're listening to This Is Not Your Practice Life. I'm your host, Macy Renee, and we are going on a journey together, my friends. I'm a certified life and emotional intelligence coach. And if you really want to step into your highest self, there are a few non-negotiables you're going to have to learn, and I am just the person to help you do it. No matter your past, I'm here to help you create a more fulfilling future. So stick around with me. Not only will I teach you how to navigate your brain's daily mind drama, but I'll help you actually understand your mind, your emotions, why you do the things you do, and why others do the things they do. Most importantly, I'll help you build the self-awareness skills to create whatever results you want. It's never too late to change the trajectory of your life. After all, this is not your practice life. Good morning. Happy New Year. It's 2023. How are you guys doing? I feel like I haven't talked to you in a while because we missed a week. My trip home was so adventurous, to say the least. It was full of ups and downs. There were definitely amazing moments, and there were moments that really kind of sucked, to be completely honest. But that is the whole life is 50-50 experience. And I'll save those stories for another day, because I really want to bring the topic how to make decisions that will change your life. You can decide to change your life every single day. Every day that you wake up is a brand new opportunity to do something that will change your life, or to choose something that is going to move you forward. But there's something about the start of a brand new year, the countdown, watching the ball drop. Although, P.S., I did not watch the ball drop. I was in bed by 10:30 Pacific time. So I technically kind of celebrated with my East Coast peeps, because I knew there was no way that I was going to be able to make it. I kind of felt under the weather. So I just called it a night early and went to sleep. But there's something about the start of a new year that feels very symbolic of getting to start on a fresh slate and make new decisions for yourself. And so I thought there was not a more perfect episode to release than how to make decisions that are going to change your life, because I think a lot of people have intentions to change their life, and there's things that we want to do or know that we should be doing to kind of move ourselves forward, but we don't always take action because we don't always know how. So I really want to talk about what you're going to have to develop within yourself in order to make these decisions that are going to move you forward. And I can speak truly from my own experiences as well, because I celebrated something so exciting that I know that I've talked about on the podcast. And I said, one day I'm going to be able to come and celebrate this, and it's going to be an exciting day. So I crossed 6 figures in my business. My year to date was, let's see, hold on, I'll pull it up so I don't mess it up. I'll tell you exactly how I ended my year. I ended my year crossing $101,000 with a little extra change, $101,472. So anyways, I was texting my coach, Stacy. She was my very first coach back in 2016. And she uses the phrase, slow burn in her business to kind of talk about the people that take a little bit longer to get to their goals. And it's not a problem, but it's like there's people who start their businesses and they move really fast. And you'll find in any industry, there are those people that blow your mind and they're like, 1 year of business and I'm at $500,000. And then there's the people that have like 10 years in business and I've made $20,000. And then there are, all the people in between. And I have always grown in my business. So this year I'm going into my 5th year of business. It'll be 5 years in February. And I'm going, into my 5th year, and I've always grown. I've never gone backwards, which I think that in itself is a huge milestone. But let me just tell you where I was last year. my last year, the year to date, was $36,500. Okay, that's what I made in solely my business. Now, I used to consider also what I brought in as an OT a lot of times, of kind of like what I made in a year's time. But last year, that was what I made in my business. So I've grown exponentially. And I just really quickly want to thank every single client, every single person that supported my business, that shared my podcast, that has trusted me to be their coach, has worked with me. It's super exciting, and I think it's only going to continue to go up from here because I'm not going anywhere. But it was exciting to text my coach and just tell her, thank you for always believing in me, for always knowing my potential, for, cheering me on, and just your coaching over the years, because even though I've been a snail and a slow burn, it's like I've been listening. I've been taking it all in. I've been doing the things, and it's just fun to celebrate this milestone. And it's funny because when you get into your mind something that you're going to do and you've been practicing being that person long before it happens, when you hit the goal, it doesn't feel like confetti and a bunch of exciting things. Actually, it kind of feels a little bit meh. And I don't mean that negatively, but I mean like if you have set goals in your life and then you hit them and you kind of feel meh, there's two things. One, you really have to force your brain to celebrate, because a lot of times it feels meh because you've met the goal that you knew you would eventually hit, and it's ready to go on to the next goal. And so you have to slow your brain down and really celebrate the fact that you did it, that you became the person that hit that milestone. And the second reason that it feels meh is because, again, you have practiced being that person in your mind way before it actually was like a physical manifestation. So I've been thinking about six-figure Macy for several years. Like probably I started thinking about six-figure Macy probably year 3 of my business, maybe year 2.5. And it always felt so far away. And so it feels amazing to be able to just celebrate that. And it made my coach cry because she's watched me from literally sobbing my eyes out on every single coaching call, not knowing what I wanted to do, to this milestone, which is a really big deal, I think. So just celebrating myself for that. But getting back on par with the episode, I really want to share with you how to make decisions that are going to help you change your life, because there's a difference between wanting something and doing something, absorbing information and implementing information. And I want you to start 2023 on a path that is going to add up to eventually get you to a place where you're meeting your goals that you have for yourself. So the number one thing that you have to drill inside of your mind, okay, inside of your brain, is that when you make decisions, you want to make them from the place that you want to be, not where you currently are. This is probably the biggest mistake or mishap that I see people doing whenever they make decisions. They make decisions from their current level of thinking, which is usually very protective of them. It's the brain trying to keep you safe. It's the brain being afraid of what might occur, there being any risk involved. Like what it does is it tries to see all of the ways things could go wrong by you making a decision that can change your life, and it will try to talk you out of it. So in order to actually change your life when you make decisions, you have to be thinking, what decision would I make if I knew I was going to get the result that I want? Or what decision would I make from my highest self, not from me that's maybe scared, doesn't see the way that it can happen, afraid of, the what might come of making the decision, like not the piece of me that is terrified and the part of me where my brain is being very protective, but instead, what decision would I make if I knew I was going to get the result that I want? Or what decision would I make from my highest self, not from me that's maybe scared, doesn't see the way that it can happen, afraid of, the what might come of making the decision, like not the piece of me that is terrified and the part of me where my brain is being very protective, but instead, what decision would I make if I
already believed I was at the goal, or that the goal was inevitable. The result that I want is inevitable. So, to give you an example, I will tell you, like, a lot of times when you are making decisions this way, it's going to feel pukey, okay? It's going to feel very scary because, again, your brain wants you to feel safe. It wants all of the answers. It wants, ultimately, what your brain wants is this crystal ball of, like, if you make decision A, it's going to give you result B. And because we don't have that predictability, we don't know what's going to happen. It's our brain is kind of like, well, it just kind of throws its hands up in the air. If you think of it like that way, it kind of throws its hands up in the air, and it's like, well, we don't know what's going to happen. We should probably not make the decision. It's not a safe decision. And we really have to be willing to overcome that fear when whatever we're making a decision on, we're making it from our highest self, from the place where we want to be, from the version of us that believes that the result is inevitable, from our soul hell yeses, as I call it, right? Like, whenever it comes to making, like, there being something that you want, a lot of times your radar is your gut reaction. And if you're very in tune with your gut, you're going to have a what I call a soul hell yes or a soul hell no. And then right after the soul hell yes or soul hell no, then comes your brain, like, with logical thinking. And it tries to really predict and plan every little thing out in order to keep you from any kind of emotional, physical, mental harm, right? It anticipates that if making a decision is going to make you feel uncomfortable or unsafe, it doesn't want you to do that. So whenever I am making decisions in my life, I listen first for my gut, soul hell yes or soul hell no. Like, does this feel like the thing that my highest self needs or would do? And if the answer is soul hell yes, like, of course, then I know that my brain is going to offer me all of the reasons I should back out, and all of the reasons why maybe it can't happen, and all of the reasons I'm not that person yet and will never be that person, right? It becomes like the negative Nelly protective self. It's kind of like whenever you tell your parents or like family members that you really, really love, like, hey, I'm going to start a business. And like, deep down, I think that they want to be proud of you and they want to be supportive of you, but their brain goes into that logical protective mode where they're thinking of how painful it'll be to watch you, especially if you fail, and how painful it will be on them to see you hurting. And so they're afraid of their own negative emotional experience. They're afraid of you having a negative emotional experience. And so the way that their feedback comes out might be what sounds like, as you know, it'll sound like they're not being supportive of your dreams and your desires or whatever you plan to do. And they'll tell you, like, no, it's not that. I think, like, here's just what I want you to consider, right? And a lot of times we're like, oh, but you're not supporting my decision. This is what happens, okay? It's their brain trying to keep them safe from negative emotion. And our brain does the exact same thing when we're making decisions. So, to give you an example of this, like, when I set the goal of I would really love to, become a six-figure coach. That's what I, want to do. I had my reasons why, and I'm going to talk about that in another episode. I'm going to do an episode around money because I haven't done one in a long time, and I haven't done one, being at this level. And I certainly see the difference in my growth and thinking around money from the first time I recorded, about it to now. And I think that it'll be very valuable. But the thing that I really want to say is that when I set the goal of becoming a six-figure coach, I welcomed myself to opportunities that were going to help me get there. And I also made plans of what I needed to do or who I needed to become in order to step into that version of myself. So I had made a list and added pictures to my dream board of what that would look like as best as I could in my mind. Because the thing about it is you don't know until you try things, right? With whatever goal you're setting, you don't know exactly how to get there. And a lot of times we want this clear-cut A, B, C, D, E, F, G path. And that's not how it looks. It usually looks like G, Z, A, C, right? It's like scattered all over the place. So we have to be on for the ride, right? Committed to the goal and committed to the messiness of the ride. But with that being said, when we're operating from our highest self, from the version of us that we want to be, we usually have an idea of what we need to implement in order to become that version of ourselves. So for me, I wanted to be certified through the life coach school, not because anybody told me I had to be, not because that was a requirement, not because that guarantees success, but it was something that I really felt that I wanted to do, and I put it on my dream board. So when the opportunity came up for me to be able to enroll in the life coach school, even though I felt so sick to my stomach, I said yes. And even though I really truly dreaded every single week because it pushed me outside of my comfort zone, coaching in front of other people, it really strengthened and honed my skills so that I could be a better coach for my clients that I am now serving, right? So it's like six-figure me had to take action and do that way before I felt ready. I still felt like a small little shrimp. I still felt very scared, and I had to make decisions from the coach I wanted to be, meaning very skilled, catch my clients' bullshit much more easily. Like I wanted to be able to help my clients get out of their way in a very skilled way. And so that meant doing things that scared the crap out of me way before I felt ready. Okay, so that's one example. Another example is whenever my coach asked me if I wanted to come on for a position for 200K and if I wanted to go through the application process just like everybody else. And it was terrifying. It was so daunting to, I guess, put myself out there in that way because I had all of the mind drama of why are they asking me? Like, why are they asking me to do all of that? Because I didn't fully have the self-belief or self-concept that I could kill it. And so I had to work like from the time that I applied, put in my application, submitted my coaching videos. Like I knew that, her whole team was watching the way that all of the applicants were coaching these scenarios. And it was so daunting. So daunting. But in those months waiting for the answer of whether or not, I would be chosen or not, because just because I have been with my coach for forever doesn't mean that I'm guaranteed a spot, right? Like they still go through the same process with me that they do as with everybody else. And so it's not like a free automatic pass by any means. And so I really had to coach myself on I deserve one of those spots, and I'm proud of myself for applying, and I know that I would kick ass as one of her coaches to help work, part-time for her company. Like I can coach people that make anywhere from $25,000 all the way to $1 million, of course, even though I'm not there yet. Like with the higher earners, it was like I had to start believing in my skill set to do that way before I felt ready. And because I started doing that work and making decisions like I'm going to apply, I'm going to put myself out there, I'm going to just show up, I'm going to do my best, I'm going to practice my skills, I'm going to do all of these things. I didn't feel ready for any of it, but because I made those decisions, I became that person, right? So when you're making decisions, you're not making it from who you feel you are right now. Because I guarantee you, the person that you feel you are right now doesn't feel ready. So it's just like clients who decide to invest in coaching, right? Like I think of the people who do consults with me. There's like the version of them that shows up to the consult that has probably never spent any kind of money on them in this way, right? They've never invested in their brain, or they've never invested in themselves at this caliber where they're going to be showing up every single week and basically stripping themselves like an onion to figure out why they are where they are. Like it's just a different caliber. So there's the version of you that comes to the consults, and then there's the version of you that has to be able to say yes. And that's a whole different version of yourself. And I talk to my clients that, have gone through the yes and are now in coaching about just the difference that even that first decision made. Like going from the person that's like, I'm really scared. I don't know if this is going to help me. I don't know what I'm going to get out of it. I have no idea what to expect, to I'm just going to trust that this is the right decision, invest in myself like I never have before, show up to the calls and see what happens, right? And so there's that level where in just making that decision, they become the person that's that much closer to the results because they're doing something they wouldn't normally do. They're making a decision from where they want to be, not from where they currently are. And then as they're doing the work, they're making micro decisions with the awareness that they're learning within their own brain. They're making micro decisions of, how do I want to respond to my kid when I'm really, really mad? Like, here's the way that I used to, and that obviously wasn't working. So I'm going to make a decision of how I want to respond to my kid from the parent I want to be, not the parent that I've been. Same thing with your career, same thing with your money, same thing with your relationships with your husband, with your wife, with whoever and whomever, right? So there's making decisions from who you are right now, and your brain is likely going to try to make decisions that are going to give you the same result for the next umpteen years. So you have to be super aware of, am I making decisions from the version of me I want to be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or am I making decisions that are going to keep me in the same place? Okay. So another thing that we do that really bites us in the rear is we make decisions because in the moment it doesn't feel like it's impacting you at all. So I see this a lot with like people that struggle with like their weight, right? They have a goal where they want to look a certain way or be a certain body type or lose a certain amount of pounds or feel healthier in their body. And what they forget is sometimes they'll make decisions where they're like, it's not impacting me today, so who cares? Okay. And again, that's your brain making decisions from who you are right now, not who you want to be. Because when you're making decisions from who you want to be, you're going to be much more intentional about the decisions you make. It's not to say you can't have something, right? Or that you're depriving yourself of something. It's saying like, I am very, very aware of what this decision could mean if I repeat it over and over again. If I am not calling myself out on my patterns that are very easy to fall into. So it's kind of like, you eat the cookie and the chips, and one time it's not a big deal. But if every day you're like, it's not impacting me now, it's not like I'm going to put on 5 pounds today, so who even cares, right? If that's the mentality versus I'm going to treat myself and then I'm going to get back on track because I know that if I keep making the decisions that feel most comfortable to me, I'm not going to be where I want to be a year from now. I'm not going to be where I want to be, in the summertime or whatever it is. So it's really calling ourselves out on our BS when our brain is being protective and safe, because that's what it's designed to do, but it's also what keeps us in the same place. So if I had made decisions out of safety, I would have never gone to my life coach school certification because it was too daunting and scary to coach in front of other people. I get stage fright. And so I would have never done that. If I was making decisions from truthfully my comfort level, I would have just never, ever done it. Same thing with working for my coach. If I was operating from my comfort level, I would have said no. And I would have said no because I would have been like, I don't know that I'm at the caliber to coach the people that, get coached by her. Like some of them are making millions of dollars. Why would they come to me? At the time it was like, I haven't hit 6 figures yet. What would I have to coach them on? And it was just so not serving me, and it's not serving them when that's where my brain is. So I had to make decisions from the coach I desire to be. I desire to be in that place one day where I'm making millions. And obviously, when my brain is like, well, if I'm $1 million coach, of course I would coach people of all different levels, whether they make $1 million or they make 25,000 or whatever they make, right? So I had to step into that way before I felt ready. Let's see. The third thing that gets in the way of you making decisions that can really change your life is believing all of the sentences in your mind. So I heard this from Brooke Castillo, and I know my coach recently talked about this in a podcast I was listening to on the plane, but she was talking about how she loves this phrase, and I do too, honestly. It's one of my favorite things that Brooke Castillo says is like, she talks about how the thoughts that you're having in your brain are literally just sentences. And so sometimes I tell my clients whenever they share something with me, I'm like, that was just a 5-word sentence. That is literally trying to ruin your life. And it could be sentences like, I'll never be able to do XYZ. It's impossible. That will never happen for me. I can't do it. Like those are variations of 2-word to, 6-word sentences in your brain that will keep you from changing your life. So check your sentences. What are the sentences that you're telling yourself? Okay, so like when my sentences were, who am I to coach someone else that, makes way more money than I do? Like, or what would I have to offer them? Or why would they want to work with me, right? When those are not helpful sentences. Those sentences are also not going to be the sentences that get me to my goal and to the levels that I want to be at in business. They're sentences that are not serving me. So I want you to ask yourself, what are your sentences that you're telling yourself? I'll never be able to make it happen. It's impossible. I don't have the money for that. I'll never have the money for that. I don't have the time for that. I'm way too busy. My kids take too much of my energy. Like all of those things are sentences. They're just words. You can count how many words they are. And I think it would actually be very powerful for you to do this. Count how many words are literally dictating the results you're getting in your life. Because those words are powerful. Those words dictate how you feel. How you feel dictates what you do or don't do. And what you do or don't do based on those sentences gives you the result that you're getting. So if you're like, I want to be more present as a parent. I want to make more money. I want to go back to college. I want to start a business. I want to have a healthier relationship with my husband or wife. I want to communicate better. Okay? If you're saying those things and those are your goals, but your sentences and your decisions indicate otherwise, you're not heading where you want to be. You have to determine what it means if you were already being the wife or husband that communicates really well. How would you respond to your significant other right now if you were making a decision from the husband or wife you want to be, not who you've been? Okay, so maybe who you've been is dismissive and non-communicative or communicative. You know what I'm trying to say? Maybe that's who you've been. And you're like, Macy, I just really want to communicate better. I want to tell them how I feel. I don't want to be afraid to speak my truth. So you know what I would tell you in a coaching session? I would be like, okay, so the next time that you go to talk to your husband or your wife, you need to make a decision and speak to them and communicate to them like you're already that version of yourself. It's going to feel like shit. It's going to feel uncomfortable because your brain is saying, we're not that person. And what your brain will want to do is say, I'll eventually get there. I'll eventually become that person. I'm showing up to my coaching calls. I'm listening to the podcast episodes. I know exactly what to do. But none of it means anything if you're not doing it. Do you hear me? None of it means anything if you're not doing it. Don't do it. Don't show up to the podcast or show up to your coaching calls and take in a bunch of information and then not implement it, because then in that case, none of the self-help works. Okay? So if you're like, I want to communicate better with my partner whenever they're, talking to me about their feelings, or I want to be less triggered, or I don't want to just react and scream at them, then the next time you're presented that opportunity, you need to slow yourself down and ask yourself, how would I respond to them if I just was the wife or husband that I want to be for them in this moment? What would I need to practice and what decision would I need to make? Maybe the decision is to be quiet and listen to them. Maybe the decision would be, I'm going to just sit here and not scream or yell. I'm not going to be the same person I've been. I'm going to make decisions from the version of me I want to be. Okay? So that's where people make their mistake, is they really let their sentences, right, dictate their result. And it's usually sentences you don't even know are there. That's the power of coaching as well, is that you become very aware of your sentences, because as you're talking to me, a lot of times you're talking to me like whatever you're saying is, as my coach calls it, she calls it the news, right? She says, my clients tell me things like it's the news. They haven't questioned any of their own brain drama or their thoughts or anything like that. And so they just come and they say it so matter of fact, as if it's the truth, and they haven't questioned it at all. And our brain is really good at doing that, right? It's very good at believing we're right and very good at justifying us and making us feel like, well, of course I'm right and I have every reason to believe this thing. But a lot of times our brain is fighting to be right and creating a result we don't even want. So I just want you to be aware of what your sentences are. What are your goals? And then what are your sentences? And if the sentences don't match the goal, we need to clean that up. Coaching can be a really great place to clean that up. Okay. And the last thing that I'm going to say of, how to make decisions that will really change your life is to get yourself into rooms or surrounded by people who are doing this work and who can be of good company for you. Because I will be just super honest, most people in the world, like if you're listening to this podcast, you're of the rare few, okay? There's a lot of people who listen to self-help podcasts, but there's even more people in the world who don't. There's a lot of people in the world who wallow in their self-pity. There's a lot of people in the world who want to stay negative. There's a lot of people in the world who have very crappy sentences. There's a lot of people in the world who say they want something but are never going to make the decisions that actually get them there. There's a lot of people in the world like that. And what is going to be so vital for you is to get yourself surrounded by people who are doing this work. Okay, whatever that means. It means joining groups of people in the community that have maybe self-help groups, getting into coaching programs, getting into friendship groups of people who have similar interest in developing as, humans, right? Like just finding those people that are working on similar things, because it won't always be your spouse. It won't always be your parents. It won't always be your siblings or even your childhood best friends or even your current set of friends, right? Your neighborhood friends. So getting yourself surrounded by people who can up-level you in the sense that you all are having high caliber conversations is another important thing and a big decision that has constantly changed my life. I don't want this to sound bad, but I limit the amount of time that I spend with people who are not working on themselves, not because I don't love them or respect them, but because birds of a feather flock together and you really become the people that you spend the most time with, okay, even unintentionally. So when you're not showing up to the things that are going to help you become a better person, when you're not doing that for yourself, it's going to be very easy to stay in whatever cycles the people you're spending the most time with are in. Okay, it's just inevitable. If you look around at the people you spend the most time with and you look at their habits and who they are and the things they're talking about, it's like if you are around people who gossip all the time, you're going to be engaging in a lot of the gossip, right? If you're around people that always seem to have drama, you're going to find yourself in a circle of drama. If you are around people that constantly are complaining about money and bills and never having enough and being poor and they're laughing about it, right? And they're just like, I hate this. Work sucks. Life sucks. Money sucks. Money's hard, like recession and all of the things. You're going to likely be engaging in those conversations. And when you are surrounding yourself by that, you're missing out on all of the ways that your brain can grow, evolve, and stretch and see new possibilities. Okay, so when people aren't doing the work, it's not necessarily a problem that they're not. Everybody gets to choose what's best for them, but if you're spending a lot of time with them, your brain is going to want to default into the same way that they think. Versus when you put yourself in positions where you're around people who grow, you're likely going to feel uncomfortable sometimes, maybe even sometimes like you don't belong because they're stretching you so much. I was talking to a client of mine about this a few weeks ago. She was talking about how she has met friends from work, and these friends are really great for her because I think one of them has had a coach before and just has a different level of thinking. And so she feels really good around them. And she also feels very challenged because she's, just started working on herself. And so sometimes, the way that they see life is very different than the way she's still learning how to see life. And I was telling her, I'm like, that's totally normal. I still actually feel uncomfortable when I get in groups that my coach invites me into, right? Because they are such high caliber as far as their thinking. They're so deep into their mindsets and personal development. And even though I've been doing this work for a very long time also, I know that they're steps ahead. And it would be easier for me to be in friend groups where, we're all in kind of the same level of thinking, or where people are maybe not in the same level of thinking, right? But what is that quote? It's like you never want to be the smartest person in a room, or you're in the wrong room, right? That's kind of how I think of it. Like if you're not in rooms that challenge you and kind of make you want to crawl out of your skin from a little bit of discomfort, get yourself into different rooms, okay? So that's what I have for you today, how to make decisions that will change your life. Ultimately, you need to make decisions from where you want to be, not from where you currently are. And I hope that this shifts everything for you in 2023. All right, now before you go, I just want to share with you my newest program that has just launched for 2023. It begins in April and it ends in September. And I want to share with you the excitement behind this program. So, speaking of making decisions that will change your life, one of the very first decisions I ever made that changed the whole trajectory of my life was hiring my coach. I think you all know that. You've been here for a very long time. Coaching changed me. And if this podcast has impacted you, it is a result of coaching. So coaching in a way has changed you too. So I hired my coach almost 6.5 years ago at this point, and my life has been different ever since. When I first hired her, the only way that I could afford working with her was in a group program. So I will always be very fond of group because it taught me vulnerability and how to let others see me, and sharing my story and getting comfortable sharing my story so that I could show up in other ways. If I had never had group coaching, I might never have had this podcast because it was very uncomfortable for me to crack myself open. So my group experience as a coach was amazing and something that changed my life. Later on, one-on-one coaching, I realized, was such an amazing experience because not having to share my time with any other people and having someone's eyes and ears solely on my brain and my challenges was huge. And that in itself changed my life. And then the third type of coaching that changed me forever, and I've talked about this as well on the podcast, was going to an in-person retreat. Being able to be in the energy of my coach and meet, other women like-minded, again, getting in powerful rooms in person was life-altering for me, and very quickly did my life change from just 2 or 3 days of being in that kind of energy, showing up as my highest self. So the biggest thing that I've heard on consults in the last year and a half, I've really been listening, and I've also been listening very intentionally to my clients and their feedback and things that they say, whether they realize that they are or not. And I have taken all of this in, and I wanted to create something in 2023 that could really accelerate the growth of all of my clients, whether you're brand new and have never worked with me or you've worked with me for a while. So what I created is a program called the Hybrid Experience, where you don't have to choose what kind of coaching is best for you, because you get to experience all three. And I'm really excited about it. So it is set up to where you get high touch through one-on-one coaching. So you and I will coach bi-weekly. The weeks that we're not coaching, you will be in group, and this is to get yourself in powerful rooms with people doing very high-level thinking around emotional intelligence. It's going to be very structured. The concepts I'm teaching are brand new. They're not anything that I've taught before, so it's one of those things where the podcast and the Equip Society gives you a lot of foundational skills, and then this program is going to kind of up level and accelerate the speed at which you're growing between the one-on-one, the group, and the topics themselves. And then the beautiful thing is we're going to wrap it up at the end in September with an in-person retreat at one of my favorite places in the world, which you've probably heard me talk about on the podcast, and that is 38 in Florida. It's a gorgeous beach town sandwiched in between Destin and Panama City Beach. Beautiful structures, white powdery sand, crystal blue waters, a gorgeous luxury home on the beach. I'm so excited, and we're going to dive into concepts even further there, blended with a lot of luxurious experiences that you are not going to want to miss. So if you've been looking to improve your emotional intelligence, accelerate your growth and your mindset, definitely check it out. It's on MacyRenee.com. You can find more details. You can send me questions on that page. You can schedule a consult if you need to talk about it. You can enroll anytime now through March 31st. And up through January 31st, you can actually join using a payment plan if that helps you get yourself into the room. So it's going to be an amazing experience. You're going to learn concepts that have never been taught on the podcast or in any of my groups in the past. And if you have any questions about it, you can reach out to me. But I'm looking forward to seeing all of the ways that you grow and evolve in 2023. And if coaching sounds like the best thing for you and you're ready to take that leap, reach out to me and we will get you set up with whatever offer I have that is going to best suit you. So I will talk to you next week. Happy New Year, and I'll see you soon.
Hey there. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of This Is Not Your Practice Life podcast. If you'd like to connect on social media, you can find me on both Instagram and Facebook at Macy Renee Coaching. And if you want to stay up to date on all of my offers, announcements, and inspirational emails, you can join my email list at MacyRenee.com. In addition, if there's a way that I can further support you in your coaching journey, you can schedule a free 60-minute consult at MacyRenee.com anytime you want so we can discuss the best options for you. I look forward to seeing you next week, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.